Welcome to the Choosing Happiness podcast with me, your host, Rudrani Devi, the Happiness Lady. Well, howdy, yo. Rudrani Devi, the Happiness Lady here. Even wrote a book about it. Choosing Happiness, an uncommon way to find joy in your life. It speaks 8 languages. It does. So that's not what we're here to talk about today. I am delighted beyond the beyonds for my next guest. She is a very new friend of mine and definitely part of my tribe. We kind of met through, we met actually through a coaching program, which you also have a coaching program, Green Door Life, and you've seen me interview the girls on this show for those of you that watch all the episodes or listen on all the podcast places. But I met Devon Donkin, who is an alcohol-free lifestyle coach. I was so mesmerized when I saw this coming up in my feed. I'm like, I've got to hear what this woman has to say because I have lots of questions about living an alcohol-free lifestyle. It seems to be trending right now with me and my friends. Okay, without further ado, let me just introduce the lady. Devon, thank you so much for agreeing to have this conversation with me. I know that my listeners are going to be delighted to hear what you have to say.
Well, thank you for having me. I was so happy to get your message and invite me on your show.
It was like, I knew I was listening to you in the car. I had my sister with me and I had little earbuds in because we had to go pick up some roses to plant in my yard. And she was helping me with that. But I wasn't sure how she was going to feel about the conversation. So I had the earbuds in and I couldn't respond or anything. But I'm making comments the whole time. She goes, "What are you listening to?" I said, I have to have this girl on my podcast. I have to have this. This woman's brilliant. Oh my goddess. I didn't know any of this stuff. So I've got to know a little bit about your background and what led you to decide to be this is such a niche life coach.
Mm-hmm.
Give us some background, girl.
Great. Well, yeah, so it has to do with my own healing journey around health and alcohol. I've always been very health conscious kind of growing up. I grew up dancing. I was always into like, what is the latest, fad with like organic, and I was vegan and, just really curious about, what's the latest craze and how can I make myself healthy?
Right. None of us have had that journey.
However, I started drinking when I grew up in San Francisco, and we had access to alcohol from a very young age, maybe I want to say like as young as 12, because we were in junior high. And so alcohol had been part of my life for a long time. And it wasn't until I'd say maybe the last decade that I started thinking like, I'm not sure how well this is actually working in my body anymore. But, I had some good times, went to a lot of parties, and just, it was a way to have fun. But I had a lot of times where I'd wake up feeling horrible and thinking, this probably isn't very good. Maybe I should stop. But I just kept on that kind of vicious cycle. And then my husband and I were dating at the time, and, we were having a lot of good times. He's a musician. We were going to parties and.
Oh gosh, now I get it. I don't know if you know this, but I'm a singer-songwriter, performer, entertainer. So that's kind of like the other half of my life and it's there. You can't get around it. It's everywhere. I mean, they even put it in the green room for you. What kind of booze would you like? Would you like M&Ms? It's like,
Exactly.
Wow. Cool.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's just everywhere as a part of our life. And, we had hangovers many times. And I forget exactly how the first time came up that we decided to kind of take a break. But I think my husband, we were dating at the time, and he just was like, this doesn't seem like it's very good for you, and maybe you should stop for a while. And I thought, because it was just like the hangovers were just getting to be too much. And I would just kind of check out. And he's like, you just have this kind of different look in your eye. And I think, it's not good. So I thought, okay. And so I
You're
quit.
talking about drinking to excess now.
Well, yeah, I mean, and that's sort of a gray area for a lot of people because, having a hangover once a week for some people might be like, it's not, no big deal. But I think it was getting to the point where it just wasn't feeling like it was good anymore in my life. So, however, I didn't totally really want to quit at that time, but I kind of did it for him. I mean, for myself too, but it was just sort of a little bit more coming from him.
Right.
And so I think I had quit for like a year or so, and then we were, engaged and about to get married. And so continued to be sober for a period of time, but also having a little bit of like resentment about it. And then we moved into a new neighborhood, and we had making some new friends, and they would drink and I would be the only one who wasn't. And then but I really wanted to. And so I just wasn't really happy with that decision.
I get
Huh?
it. It's like peer pressure. You feel left out in a way, and you almost feel like you're being judged, and they don't really care. That's the bottom line. No one's going to force you to do anything, but you're like,
Yeah.
I'm feeling left out. They're having fun and I'm not. And I can only have fun if I'm buzzed.
Right. And I remember kind of hinting to my husband, like, well, I think I want to do this again. And he was like, no, you shouldn't do that. Anyhow, and then we were married and we had our son, and it was like months after our son was born, I decided, I really want to just start drinking again. And so I thought about it, and I told my husband, I said, look, I'm going to try drinking again. I think that I can have a handle on it this time. And, now that we're married, if we're going to be together, I think you just need to support my decision and let me go through what I need to go through, And he was terrified, didn't really wished I didn't make that decision, but he did support me. And so it then went through another few years, probably about close to 10 years of this.
Oh, wow.
Maybe 8 years, because my son is 10 now. Another 8 years of sort of on this merry-go-round of like trying to experiment with drinking, and then having some bad hangovers, sort of escaping into wine in the evenings as a way to, check out and wind down after a hard day at work. I'm a nurse, and some of my days can be quite stressful. So it was very easy for me to pull over at the liquor store on the way home as a way to de-stress. We still hung out with friends who drank. But then again, I was like,
your husband drinking at all? Did he not
he
drink?
was, but like I would easily have more than him,
Okay.
He would buy like a 4-pack of Hen House, and he'd be like, you had 3 and I had 1. What the,
And you're like, well, I have this capacity, which is something else I really want to know about, because I personally have a capacity with alcohol that doesn't make any sense, that I thought everybody had. Where I don't have hangovers, but I don't generally drink more than, like, I like martinis. And so my limit is usually 2 martinis. But if I'm out for a long period of time, or I'm, sitting for a long period of time, I'll have a third one. I've had 4 and driven home and been fine. And I don't wake up with a hangover. And is that even possible? I mean, I know about the other stuff. I want to know a little bit more also about what you were talking about, how it affects your sleep and all that, because I do have issues with that. But is that something where some people can just drink more than others and not be affected by it?
Absolutely. And I think, there's a lot of things that come into play, like where you are with your hormones, sort of your mindset around it too. Because, I was telling you, I was into health and wellness, and I was practicing yoga, and I would, drink too much the night before. I would open up a bottle of wine and leave, a little bit left so that I didn't drink the whole bottle, but I would psych myself out, and I would get up, drink water, go to yoga, and, start the whole process all over again. And I think we build up a tolerance for it. Definitely after a while, where our bodies are able to handle more of it. The more that we drink, we build up a tolerance with it.
So everybody can get to that point.
I think so. And then, well, sometimes too, it happens. I think I'm hearing a lot for women in midlife is suddenly their bodies aren't handling it very well. That's like, oh, I used to be able to have a few glasses of wine, and now I have one and I don't sleep, or, I feel terrible.
I don't have a good friendship with wine. The only time I appear to be able to drink it is if I'm in Europe. Because if I have it here, I'll get rosacea. I get tired immediately. I don't even get through a glass of it. Whereas when I'm in Europe, and I don't know if it's because of the tannins or what it is, it doesn't affect me that way. So
right. Yeah. There could be the tannins or the sulfites, or I think, some people tend to do better with the clear spirits, maybe less of a hangover with those. Yep.
we'll get to. I mean, between you and my girlfriend who lives in Paducah, who the last time I saw her, she said, "Okay, so I gave up drinking." And I went, "You did?" I said, "How's that working out for her?" She goes, "Well, I'm still drinking." She's drinking non-alcoholic beers and wines,
Uh-huh.
which I
Yeah.
don't really like beer or wine, so I wasn't joining in
Hmm.
with her. But I said, "I'm gonna see if I can find a non-alcoholic gin," and I did, and I am christening it just for this call.
I love that.
I did take a tiny sip before we got started, and it tastes like gin.
That's great.
It's amazing. I'm mhm. That's what gin tastes like.
Are
So,
you getting a pseudo buzz from that?
I don't know, does your mind kind of get a thing where it thinks because it's tasting it that you sort of have I
I
don't
think, yeah,
it's
I think what a lot of us are looking for is that sort of, we like that experience, that ritual of having this beautiful beverage and taking a sip of something and relaxing. And I noticed we were hanging out with some friends a couple weekends ago in Napa, who one of them is an ex-drinker, like heavy drinker, lots of wine, then cocktails. He quit cold turkey after like
oh, wow.
decades of drinking like that. But the way he was able to be successful is because he loves food and drinks so much. Is he started
He's a foodie.
purchasing really delicious, yep, foodie, um,
That's me.
alcohol-free
Love the food.
wines, de-alcoholized beverages. And so we went over to visit them, and he was opening these sparkling de-alcoholized wines, and we were sitting out by the pool having those. And I said, "Hang on a second." I'm like, "Am I getting?" I almost felt like I was getting a little buzz
Like
just from
a
the
contact
experience.
buzz just from the idea that's fascinating. Well, I'm gonna start experimenting, and I'll get into that later because I still wanna hear how in the world did you get to I'm
Hmm.
jumping all over the place. It's the
It's
ADD
fine,
in me.
right?
But, sparking other interests.
Hmm.
So, okay, you're experimenting again. 8
Yeah,
years goes by, you're
yep.
starting to go, "Hey, this isn't working for me." And then was there a defining moment that made you go, "Okay, I've had enough. This isn't working for me anymore," or
There
yeah,
absolutely was. I want to say it took me like the last year where I finally decided I'd had enough of being open to the possibility of quitting drinking again, but possibly for good. Um, my husband had a coach, and my husband was sort of sharing with this coach that he was just worried about me, just with my drinking habits, and he didn't know what to do. And so his coach hooked me up with this man called how do I say it? David Griffin, who is a Buddhist sort of sobriety person in the alcohol free world. I didn't know that he was kind of a big deal. He's another author. He has retreats and things like that, and
we'll
very
put them in
well
the show
known.
notes so we can share them with
It's
artists.
Kevin Griffin. Kevin Griffin. Sorry, I said David.
Kevin
It's
Kevin
Kevin
Griffin.
Griffin.
Okay. Yeah, David
And
Griffin's an artist.
oh, okay.
Oh, not David Geffen. I'm sorry. Jesus. Okay. I
Well,
digress.
somehow my husband got me on a call with this man because his coach knew him, and I talked to him, and I said, well, I was thinking about not drinking, but I don't really know if I want to give it up. And he's like, you think it's going to be this really big thing that you're giving up. He goes, but someday you'll realize that it's not. And that still
Mhm.
stands out for me. At that time, I wasn't ready, but he had recommended a book by Holly Griffin called Quit Like a Woman. And so I read that, and that kind of inspired me. And then I was participating in some women's healing circles and kind of making prayers about it. And the two women that were leading these circles were sober, and I just thought they were like super badass, inspiring women. I'm like, they have a little bit of something that I want to have a little bit of too. So, and they started
Right.
these like sober curious groups that I joined.
Huh.
And so
I
just kind
love
of,
that.
yeah, just like opening myself to the possibility, being with women who are like these beacons of light, thinking this could be possible for me, having a vision of like what that could look like. And then finally, it was like a year of exploration. Um, I woke up with a bad hangover on Father's Day, and I had planned to make my husband fish tacos. And
Mhm.
it was just kind of like, okay, I was in bed on my back looking up at the ceiling fan, super sick. And I was like, okay, I ruined this day. Like, this is the message that I've been praying for right here.
Yeah, the
And I
universe shows
just,
up and says, "Okay, this is the reality of it all, girl." And you're like, "I get it now." You know?
Exactly. And I just was just in bed, so sick all day long. And my husband was like visiting me and, bringing me water. And like, he was so gracious because that wasn't the only hangover during that time when I was experimenting again, where he would just kind of look at me like, you're pickling yourself, being very supportive, but very like
Wow.
worried about me at the same time. And so it was that day. And I just told my husband, I said, that's it. I was like, happy Father's Day. And, that was June 19th, almost 2 years ago. So this month actually marks my 2 year
Oh my gosh.
alcohol free.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Wow. That's huge. That's
Mm-hmm.
huge. I did go through a period where I'm going to tell you an awful story. You ready for this?
Yes.
I always had wine at the table. I grew up Italian, where you would salute at a party or whatever. So even when you were 5 or 6, you got this much wine in the bottom of a fancy glass. This is a demi-tasse, but like a fancy little, you know, cordial glass or something. And you salute that. Okay. And then, I'm in high school. I'm the cool one because I have the high school party where I have 2 kegs and a live band. And, my mother's going with me to get these kegs of beer. I mean, we'd get arrested now, so I'm
Right.
so cool. Your family lets you drink. And the next morning I saw, different people in my yard asleep or asleep in their cars. They couldn't go home and kind of crazy. And yeah, anyway, long story longer, I went to college when I was 16. So here I am, the very first day before my classes, and I connect with a girlfriend that was a year older that lived in my neighborhood. I delivered newspapers, so I knew everybody. I would always take care of their pets and all this stuff. And she took me to some frat parties. Well, girlfriend, I didn't know it's not a good idea to mix the PGA punch with the beer and the wine and all these different
Mm.
parties. And I wake up the next day with a sticky note almost on my face where she says, I tried to wake you up, but I had to go to my classes. So here I'm doing that walk of shame in college with my little high heel shoes. And I don't really know where I'm at because I'm at her place. At first, I like to get my bearings. And I run to my second class because I missed my first class because you have to sign in that first day. They drop you from the class. And then I went to my guidance counselor and I said, well, this is what happened. And she said, well, you're here on a scholarship. I don't know if we can get you back in that other class, but here's a couple of classes you could take. And here's the juxtaposition of all of this. It was a choice between, because it was going to be an elective, it was a choice between a class on religious studies or a class about astronomy. And I thought, well, I'll do the religious studies one. That'll be an easy A. And that was a class that led me to meditation and all of
Mm.
that, right? But I didn't drink again all through college and my first 2 years here in Nashville. And I became a bartender and did not drink. I was making drinks and didn't even know what they tasted like, which was really funny. I was fearful that I couldn't handle alcohol at all. So I just stayed away from it. And I don't know how it kind of seeped back into my life.
Mm-hmm.
But I am very curious because you do talk about gray area drinking.
Mm-hmm.
Could you describe to my podcast family peeps what that means? Because I had never heard of that term before. And actually my producer had.
Mm.
Vinny, who's so gracious and he's taking care of us today. He had actually heard of it. And I was like, never heard of this before ever in my life. And here's my friend who's decided to stop drinking. And, and my mom now recently, they gave her a bottle of champagne because we were celebrating her 91st birthday. And she had 1.5 glasses and she was like, whoa, that's it. I can't drink anymore. And it was so funny because I'm looking at her going, you're never going to have another drink. Just, no, it's not a good idea for me. And I said, yeah, you could fall.
Yeah.
91. She's blind in one eye. She's got only peripheral, she doesn't have the peripheral vision in one eye. And she has arthritis. She doesn't walk very quickly these days. She does walk. She does very well for her age. But she just made the decision just like that, like it's no big deal, you
I,
know?
I admire people like that have the awareness. They're like, hey, they realize this is probably not good for you. I'm going to stop right there, whereas most of us are like, oh,
91.
let's.
91. But, to speak to that, she would only drink like on her birthday. She would have a glass of Prosecco, or at Christmas, she might have a glass of red wine. My
Mhm.
brother this last time brought her like 4 jugs of wine, but they'll all drink it. So
Mhm.
it's, and she'll have like one little thing, but the champagne was enough for her to go, "Yeah, I don't want it anymore. Just tell everybody not to bring me wine anymore." And I said, "Well,
Mhm.
mom, they'll drink it." So
Yeah.
it just doesn't
Well,
matter. But
so your mother is like the one extreme side of drinking, right?
mhm,
Of like you just described that so beautifully, like, oh, she'll have a glass of wine on a birthday, or, months could go by, right? It sounds
mhm,
like.
mhm.
And she might have another drink and then months go by, right? Or several weeks or whatever.
Right, right.
And then
Yeah,
the other,
I gave her a limoncello martini for her birthday the year before, and she had like 4 sips and loved it, but she was like, "Well, now my head's spinning. Somebody else is gonna have to finish this," and my sister reaches over,
yeah, yeah.
no big deal. Okay, so on the other side,
On the other side is like the end stage, my life is falling apart. I need
right?
to go to a treatment center, right?
Can't
That
handle
like
this on my
or a
own.
detox program
Mm,
if I continue to drink. Like it could be a life-threatening thing, extreme, you know, this person can be a severe alcoholic, right?
right, right.
Everybody else in the middle between your mom and the end stage drinker is considered in the gray area.
That's a huge area.
It is because and it's ambiguous for a lot of people when you say, oh, everything in moderation. It's like, well, what does moderation mean to you? Is that a couple drinks? Is it 10 drinks a week? Gray area is, oh, I have, I drink a glass of wine with dinner on most nights. I have, drinks on the weekends with my friends when we go out to shows. I
Right.
open a bottle of wine to wind down from work. And, it could be 3 drinks a week. It could be 5. It could be 10. It
Mhm.
could be 14, if someone's having a couple glasses every night.
Oh, I guess so, yeah. Huh. Didn't
Right.
think that way. Sure, sure. Well, I'm
Hmm.
not an every night drinker person,
Hmm.
so I mean, for me, I was like a weekend drinker, I guess. Or
Hmm.
if I went out with my friends, sometimes it would be in the middle of the week, and I would have, but I know I'd be working out the next day, so it might be just one martini.
Right.
It's a pretty tough workout we're doing with the Green Door Life,
Exactly. Yeah.
kicking our asses, and I wanna have that energy to get through it. In fact, I did their 3-month program. Which are you doing the 3-month challenge?
Not right now, but I have done their three month program before.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
So within the first or second week of the second month, I decided not to drink at all because it was messing up my macros.
It will. Yeah.
And I was like, I don't want to mess that up. I'm here to did it. And I tightened up and I got so strong and all the things. And man, I am a beast now. I'm a beast.
Exactly. I
My
remember when I did their 3 month, I was trying to fit that alcohol into my macros, and it was really frustrating
oh my
because it was so
gosh.
hard to fit that in. And then I was like, not always honest with myself. I'm like, oh, I'll count that as
I
having
won't
it.
record that one.
Yeah. And I remember like I was training and I was, you know, counting my macros, but I
Yeah.
wasn't able to achieve the level of fitness that I have achieved now. I was in my 40s at the time, and now early 50s. This is probably the best shape I've ever been in my life.
Mm. Well, it was so funny because Jocelyn, I was drinking these. I love sparkling water and flavored waters and all the
Yeah.
stuff. I love water anyway. I mean, I'm kind of a snob. I have all my special waters and things, and I even have a Kangen water machine, all the stuff. I pound a liter every morning when I first get up. I think I
Yeah.
must sleep with my mouth open or something because I'm always first thing in the morning or whatever. And I remember, with Jocelyn, she would see that I recorded everything. I did. And I had these sparkling watermelon tequila drinks because I remember Shannon saying, "Well, out of all the liquors,
The mezcal tequila.
the mezcal is the best choice." And they had this mezcal watermelon thing, but it said 0 calories.
Hmm.
So, I could have one of those occasionally if I'm doing tacos or whatever. And Jocelyn would see that and she'd be like, "What is this watermelon thing you keep drinking that's 0? I need to look at that." So I took a picture of the can and I sent it to her. She goes, "Oh no, you actually have to count the alcohol.
Yeah.
They don't do it on the can.
Oh, they tricked you.
They don't do it on the can. They don't."
Oh,
So the Green Door, I guess, came up with a thing that you could plug in
count your alcohol. Yeah.
if you were gonna count your alcohol.
Mhm.
So that's what convinced me, you know what? I don't have to have this. I'm doing it to be celebratory. I bought into, okay, if I'm gonna drink, it's gonna be tequila. or mezcal. You know, I don't even like mezcal.
I did.
I have it for other people. I have booze in my house for other people because I don't like whiskey. I like gin
Hmm.
and wines from other countries, but that's about it.
Yeah.
So this gray area drinking is
Yeah, it's a
everybody in
term
between.
actually that the American Dietary Guidelines came up with it in 2010. So they're up for review every year. They have to look at the foods and drinks that we put in our bodies that can lead to optimal health or disease prevention. And they're like, well, we can't ignore alcohol, right? And so they kind of came up with the term
Gotcha.
gray area. And it's interesting when you look at the recommendation, it's so ambiguous because it says, no more than one drink on a given day for a woman and no more than two on a given day for a man. You're like,
Yes.
well, are you talking 1 day, 2 days? Because if you're drinking 7 days a week and you're having 1 or 2 drinks a day, I mean, that's way too much.
So what is that number? Is it a week? Is it a month? Is it a day?
It's
Nobody knows.
ambiguous. I would say it's on a day. But now that we know, fast forward, we're in 2024, so 14 years since that came out, we know that really no amount of alcohol is safe, right? And we have just a lot more research and science to prove it. The guidelines are probably going to change next year in 2025, and they're going to represent more of what Canada is saying, which is no more than 2 a week.
Gotcha. Well, also this whole thing about red wine being the better wine if you're going to drink,
Like
that
a
it's
health
actually
beverage.
good for you. Yeah.
We used to think that, and a lot of people still think that because of the resveratrol and kind of
Yes.
antioxidants that are in
That's
the
what I heard.
grapes.
Mm-hmm.
But the catch is you have to drink so much of that red wine to get the antioxidant benefits that the amount of alcohol is going to counter.
That's
You know what I
hilarious.
mean? Like it's going to be
Yes.
more taxing on your liver and your system. Then you might
I
as well
love
just
it.
have like the grape juice or take a resveratrol supplement if that's what you're looking for.
Well, Dr. Oz says, take the supplement. So, okay, I want to talk more about that, but I do have to pay the bills. So we're going to take a short break from my sponsor, Mandu, Manduu. It is not a hair salon for men, y'all. It is actually what I like to call the electrocution workout. It's basically a suit with a bunch of TENS units attached to it that work all your muscles in a 15-minute workout that is more like your body getting tricked into thinking it worked out for an hour and a half. That's my Metcon, y'all. So if we can just take a moment for this 1-minute commercial that yours truly is actually wearing this device, we'll be right back. Thank you.
Mandu is a boutique fitness studio concept, and we are actually the first FDA cleared EMS training workout. And what we do essentially is that we will have a client come in, we will hook them up to a whole body EMS suit, and then we perform a workout on a medical grade device called an eFit device. And that device will send an electrical current to their body through electrodes in these suits that we put on them. And this electrical current is just basically stimulating the electrical current that you already have inside your body. So everybody is made up of electrical impulses. It's what helps you walk, helps you move. We're tapping into that and making it stimulate it more to where we can cause a muscle to actually contract involuntarily. So we can actually create resistance without adding a load to the body. So that is why we, as you see online, it always says ultra low impact. It is scientifically proven. It is absolutely ultra low impact.
And we're back. Howdy, y'all. We're here with Devon Donkin. She has been telling us all these amazing truths about alcohol that I was not aware of. So I really wanted her to be on the show so that she could share them with you. And we were now just talking about these myths, like this whole idea behind red wine being the right alcohol to drink and it's healthy for you. And yeah, let's go more into that piece, if you don't mind, because we were just starting before the break.
So what would you like to know about that?
Well, okay. So you said that Canada has a different point of view, and that we're hoping that in 2025 that we're going to actually get the rest of the story. That I can't even pronounce that,
I think it's resveratrol. I have a hard time saying it
Yeah,
too.
trawl, T-R, that's it. I know you're saying it right, even if my mouth can't do it. That I actually took as a supplement. When I was a bodybuilder, I didn't drink at all when I was practicing as a bodybuilder because I knew what it was doing. Okay, this is what I would do though. Literally right before I would do my routine, I would drink like an ounce or two of wine because it made my veins pop. And that was something that because what you do is you starve yourself. Well, this is what my coach told me. He said, if you really want definition right before you go on stage and you do your routine, then you need to fast for 2 days. And then right before you go on, like Mino, like he said, like literally right before, have a shot of wine. Or he said whiskey, but there was no way I was going to. I've never liked whiskey, and I live in Tennessee. I know that's a travesty, but it's just not my jam, y'all. No whiskey for this girl. So anyway, I would have a little bit of wine, and sure enough, I feel a little woozy because here I had all I would do is I would eat apples. I cheated. I had to eat something, so I would go through a bag of apples in 2 days and drink this wine, and and then the muscles would pop. I'm going to show you something.
And your veins would pop. It's because it's a vasodilator. It's opening up your blood vessels. That's why we get flush in the face when we drink, and people get like those broken capillaries all across their nose when they drink a lot.
Oh yeah, I could always tell that when I was a bartender. I could always tell who my biggest drinkers were, and I was like, make sure that they don't leave their credit card behind because a lot of them would get so drunk they would just forget their credit card or forget to pay or forget to tip you. This is me. With the big hair.
Oh, wow.
Right there.
Wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
Yeah. Here's another picture right there. Well,
yeah.
So, I was a professional bodybuilder right there.
You look great.
Look at that hair. Closer to Jesus. Closer to Jesus. So they told us here in the South now. And that's what I would do, but I wouldn't drink at all when I was working out because I wanted to build muscle. And I knew that the alcohol was restricting that possibility for me. I don't know where I got that information, but I was crazy, man. I was making shakes with raw eggs and raw goat milk. And, it was awful.
Oh, wow.
But I did it to build these biceps. You know what I'm saying? And get all that muscle up there. Look at
I see people. That.
Anyway.
I should have worn a tank top.
For those who are not watching on YouTube, I just kissed my bicep. So I love this body and what it's capable of doing. And so I had knowledge of, okay, if I want to achieve something like when I do these cleanses, I'll do them I have like a 7-day cleanse and then I have like a 40-day cleanse, which is more about just eating clean and not eating processed food. And I'm baking my own bread now. I'm actually milling the little wheat berries and baking my own bread. I had me a beautiful sandwich today. Oh, gorgeous.
Sounds delicious.
My fresh baked bread because it has all that nutrients in it. And from what I'm hearing, alcohol kind of negates the nutrients. Does it also negate like where you can't absorb your food so well? Can you talk a little bit more about that? I'm going to find a picture of my beautiful sandwich because I took a picture of it today.
Yeah. So the alcohol, it depletes vitamins and minerals. It interferes with absorption. It disrupts hormones. It causes our brains to shrink. It is terrible for gut health. Pretty much every system in the body. Oh yeah. Got the sprouts on there. Yeah.
Sprouts, tomato. There's roast beef and turkey.
Oh, it's lovely.
Look at that. Isn't that gorgeous?
Beautiful. Yes. Yeah. So good.
Very good sandwich. So if I'm willing to do all of that because I don't want to buy bread that's stripped of niacin and all the nutrients that are the things that actually stove me up, keeps me from being regular and all that. Why would I want to? So here I'm eating this beautiful sandwich. And then if I were to have a glass of wine with it, I would be negating my body's capacity to absorb those nutrients.
Correct. Yes.
Tell us more about that as I drink my non-alcoholic.
It just
I'm born buzzed. I don't need alcohol to be buzzed.
You don't.
I really don't.
Most people don't. I'd say like that we think that we do in order to have a good time.
We think we do. That's because that's what this reality tells us.
Yeah, and I think people have anxiety or they're insecure, you know, they get nervous when they're going to go out and be social, that like the alcohol kind of helps them break through that. But then when you show up to these places more often sober and you start to go, wait a minute, I'm actually fun and I'm having a good time without it, the more kind of motivating it is to stay sober, because then you kind of were like, you have fun at the party, you get a good night's sleep, and then you wake up and you're like, bam, no hangover, I'm going to crush my workout. And it just becomes a way of life. And then after a while, you don't miss it.
Yeah. I'm a morning person. I'm up at 5 or 6 every morning. I do my 3 miles on my treadmill, and then I do either the weightlifting or my version of Metcon. I'm so scared of doing it with Green Door. They go so fast. I'm so burnt out. It's like, I told Shannon, I said, I've done it a couple of times, but I'm just so afraid I'm going to drop a barbell on me or something. It's like 30 minutes of pure hell. But I love working out, but Metcon is not my jam. Not for everyone, y'all.
Right.
You probably love it. It's like Orange Theory, but safer if you do it with Green Door. So, okay, so what's making this, what is alcohol actually doing that keeps you from absorbing or negating the absorption of the nutrients that you would have in your whole foods or vitamins?
Well, your body, so your body sees it as a toxin. And so the liver is like, wow, okay, now you've put this in me. I'm going to only focus on that now. My priority is to clear this poison from the system. So I'm not going to prioritize like healthy metabolism of absorption. And, you know, the gut is where we absorb a lot and we produce a lot of the healthy neurotransmitters, and the alcohol is wiping out a lot of the good gut flora. So 80% of like serotonin, which is the one of the happy neurotransmitters, is produced in the gut.
Shut up.
Mm-mm.
Serotonin gets in my gut?
Yep.
Where I'm digesting all my...
Uh-huh.
I know you're a nurse, so you have to know these things. How do I never know that?
I don't know. It's just, you know, if you're not paying attention or whatever, you might not...
That sounds like me.
Pick up on it, but yeah, I mean, gut health is sort of like one of the main things that the wellness industry is focused on right now because of that, because of the microbiome, and it supports our immune system. Like if we can eliminate properly, we're going to be healthier. If our bodies can make things like serotonin and GABA, you know, and this is one of the things that, well, alcohol depletes all of the healthy happy neurotransmitters like GABA, which is like the anti-anxiety neurotransmitter in our body. There's serotonin, which is the happiness. There's the dopamine, which is like about connection and motivation. And there's acetylcholine as well. So it basically depletes all those.
Wow.
But then people think they need the alcohol to feel good, because it does make you feel good. Like, let's be honest. I mean, I liked the way that it made me feel for those first 20 minutes, you know.
Yeah, then you're
depleting every time.
I'm a very outgoing person, but I will tell the truth. When it comes to personal one-on-one relationships, especially with men, whether they are romantic or not, I found that having a drink made it a lot easier for me to, I don't want to say be myself, but to be open, you know? And this is something that I'm very curious about, because this is something that's just come to my awareness recently, is that every guy that I've ever dated for a period of time, like more than a date or 4, have been really heavy drinkers, out drinking me by 2 or 3 times. And I'm like going, is there something about me that is attracting that type of social drinker? You know, what is it about me that's all I seem to, I'm going to put in quotes, be interested in? Because I also have gone out with a guy that doesn't drink at all and found it very boring. I'm sorry. And I don't know what that's about either. So there's some personality or some emotional stuff too that I think we glom on to this whole idea of drinking. You know, if I go on this date, not only is it socially acceptable, but it'll be easier for me to converse with this person or whatever. Do you find that to be true, or I don't know?
Yeah, I mean,
call here, because this is really a very this is an awareness I've just recently had where I kind of threw the boomerang out to the universe and said, listen, can you bring back to me somebody that, doesn't require copious amounts of alcohol for a date? Would they like to go mountain climbing, or let's go horseback riding? Or could I find somebody who's actually interested in another way of relating? I mean, the last guy that I dated was so much younger than me, girl, crazy, 32. And he would just get wasted.
Right.
And not remember most of our conversation the next time I saw him.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be like, but he was very engaging and actually fun to talk to and all of this. But I wondered, what would he be like if he didn't drink? And so one day I was like, let's not drink tonight. And it was weird. It's like he couldn't really, I don't know. It was weird.
Well, it's unfamiliar to him, right? So if we develop this habit of, hey, every time I go on a date or every time I go to a party or go to a show, of course I'm going to drink. I mean, like for many years for me, it was like every time I thought of any occasion, if it was like going out to dinner, going to a show, going to hang out with friends, I always thought of alcohol. It was like, absolutely the alcohol is involved. And I would want to even have 1 or 2 drinks before I even got to the place because I wanted to be like, yes, it was like a way for my body to say, yeah, I'm going to have a good time and let loose. And
right.
so when we're familiar with that, but we're accessing this part of ourselves that is, it's us, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like maybe we're using the alcohol as a tool to let that part of ourselves come out.
Mm-hmm.
But once you move past that and you start to just like see what it's like to have fun and be yourself without drinking, the more you realize that that part of you is still there,
Right.
But for someone like this guy, it's like, well, he's not used to being like that without alcohol, but maybe if he did for a period of time go without it, that part of himself would come out naturally.
Would lighten up. And yeah, I guess so. I mean, I didn't think about it that way, where he's probably halfway through the day thinking about his first drink.
Yeah.
I have a friend who is, I'm not going to mention his name. He, when he was in Italy, he works for the organization I've been involved with for several years. And he was in Italy, taught a class. And what he would do is that after the class, he was just so exuberant. He would go and pound a few, I guess. I don't know, because I never went out and personally drank with him. He's more of a colleague, I guess. And so he checked himself into a detox program in Italy. And here he doesn't even speak the language. I found that very noble and brave. He got clean. And what he discovered is that he actually has an allergy to alcohol, so it could kill him eventually.
Oh.
Some people actually have an allergy. Some people develop alcoholism. Some people, the very first drink they have, they're hooked, because it's almost as if their body has this death wish or something, because they're allergic to it, but they can't not take it. Like getting hooked on any kind of drug that, like intravenous, I don't know, whatever. And so he was clean for a while, and then he slipped off the wagon. And he had to come to terms with how unhappy he was in his life, the death wish that he had. Because here he is, he's creating his life. It's amazing. He's teaching his classes, he's traveling all the way around the world, and yet he's doing something that could literally kill him. But he'd never dealt with all the stuff, the mental part of it, or the never feeling loved. I don't know if he was married or it was just a girlfriend. He had a child with someone, then ended up raising the child on his own, which is very noble as well. He won the cooking talent show that's the equivalent of Top Shelf here in Australia. And, had all this stuff going for him. And yet he never thought he was enough. Now he's clean again. Hasn't had a drink. I think he just celebrated his 2-year, like you, coming up. And I sent him a personal note, said, congratulations. I think that's great. And I almost reached out to him and said, I'm kind of thinking about it too, but I thought I'm going to sound weird to him because I'm a gray drinker that's not allergic to alcohol, that I always thought, well, I just have this capacity, but maybe those are just implants from this reality telling me that, oh, you can handle it. Because I've had people say, you have an amazing capacity. I don't know how you're doing this. And I never thought I couldn't. So I'm exploring all of that, I
think there's definitely a lot of like high achieving, brilliant, talented people who drink a lot, like people that really love to feel things like extremely, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm one of those, and so the alcohol was like, oh, I want to feel this extreme big feeling and have like the best time and kind of go all out. And and then when we're dependent on it over the years, we could be, masking things or using the
Right.
alcohol to make us have energy to do things when our bodies maybe they just want to rest, or
Right.
maybe I want to be like the lazy, more boring type and stay in, some nights. Maybe my body really needs to relax. So,
Watch Disney Plus.
right.
There's a lot of really cool movies on Disney Plus right now, y'all. The new Star Wars series just started. Um, it's interesting. I don't remember who it was that said, "I drink to make other people interesting."
Possibly, yeah. People, they're like,
That's
oh,
a
I used
great
to go
quote.
to these social things and I had to drink to deal with it. And then when they stopped drinking, they realized, well, I don't even want to go to those things anyway. So I'm going to do something else, or,
Girl. When I was a film producer, I had to take people out to lunch and dinner that I would never be friends with otherwise. But because here I am a producer and I want to produce their artist's next music video, I'm taking out the people from the label or management or the artist. Sometimes the artist is a complete asshole. It's like sometimes you don't want to meet the people that uh, that you've put up on a pedestal, because when you find out who they really are, it's like,
yeah.
yikes, what up with that?
Hmm.
But usually, like I can remember the head of RCA, people were shocked. He agreed to have lunch with me. I was one of the two women executive producers in Nashville that handled 90% of the music videos in town, and we're there, and it was a 2 martini lunch. And then he bought lunch. Here I'm supposed to be taking him out, and he goes, I can't let you buy my lunch. I'm like, okay. It's like, but he worked out at the same gym that I did,
Hmm.
which I find very curious. And so we knew each other from the gym. So when I reached out to him and said, let's like to talk to you, because I love your artists on RCA Records, and I got 7 directors that could. But the 2 martini lunch was a big. I never thought twice about it, and I was in my 30s. You know,
Right.
now I'm twice that age. It's like it's not the same. I mean, I work hard to look like this, but
Yeah.
my body is still going to be the age that it is.
Hmm.
And, it's like, maybe my body has a different point of view than what this reality has been telling it. And that's what I've been looking at. So I love this conversation so much. Okay, so I remember hearing something else that you said that really stuck with me. And
Hmm.
I'd like for you to go into a little more detail about that. It was something along the lines of now, because I was a smoker back in the day, because, they were on TV. It was, smoke a Marlboro, the Marlboro Man, and da 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 da. Women were encouraged to smoke so that their baby weight, the weight of the baby would be smaller. It was advertised that way. And then finally, there was that little disclaimer at the bottom that wasn't even spoken, like what they do now with every drug that's coming down the pike. Um, and so I smoked in the very end of high school, at 16, in college. And finally, I think I gave it up, I don't know, 8 years later, because I didn't like the way I smelled, to be honest with you. It was all vanity. I thought, I don't really need these. What am I doing? And then, later you find out that it causes cancer, and you have a higher risk for a lot of things, even obesity, which I found interesting. But, heart disease is the main one. Heart disease is the biggest killer. And now they're finding that that's the case with alcohol.
Hmm.
So can you please speak to us more about that? Because I really want my listeners to have this piece of information, because I love you guys. And you can choose
Yeah.
different your bodies.
We want
I
you to
want you to
stick
be around
around.
for a long time.
Got to keep up with Rudrani.
That's right. What challenge? Y'all got to keep up with this. Keep up with this. All right. Kissing my biceps again.
Yeah.
Okay.
I really think that we are starting to look at alcohol all like we did cigarettes. So like as you were just describing, pregnant women used to smoke, right? Like that was normal.
And
Doctors were in the advertisements for cigarettes. But it took about 30 years later until they were like, you know what? This actually causes cancer. And that's when the Surgeon General's warning came out. and they started putting that cancer warning on the cigarettes.
Right.
I think
When
that was
was
in
that? That was in the
1960. I think it was
70s?
in 1965 or something like that.
When was it?
I
65?
think it was 65,
Okay.
if I remember correctly.
I was the toddler. So I
Yeah.
remember about that. But my parents would have these big parties and all their friends smoked. And before I was born, my dad actually smoked and then smoked cigars. But by the time I was born, he gave up drinking and smoking because he was a very angry person. And I think that he realized that he couldn't do that anymore.
Mhm.
Didn't stop the rage, but it stopped him from doing things like, I don't know, stuff. I won't get into it.
Right.
But
But
so
so alcohol, I mean, it can cause several different types of cancer. So when we drink, there's a byproduct that our body makes called acetaldehyde. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. But this byproduct is,
it's so hard to pronounce. No, stop it. They confuse us.
but
You go Google it and you can't find it. Anyway.
this byproduct is more toxic than the alcohol itself, right? So
Wow.
let that sink in. So this byproduct is what actually kind of damages the DNA in the cells, which can like go down the cancer path. So there's only a couple of places in the world. I know South Korea is one of them where they've actually put a cancer warning on the labels of alcohol. So right now, like in the United States, it just says, I think you're not supposed to operate heavy machinery and you shouldn't drink when you're pregnant. But there's nothing about cancer. But I think we're headed in that direction.
What were the tests that they did to actually reveal that information? I
That's a
mean,
good question on how.
I always wonder how they can come up with these percentages and all this stuff. It's like when they say 9 out of 10 people will have erectile dysfunction by the age of 40. I'm like, stop it. You're
Yeah,
implanting these men to believe they're going to have erectile dysfunction. I'm like, how do you know that? Do you actually have this many people come in to your office and, you give them porno? And I mean, how do they?
right.
I digress here, obviously, but my brain goes there. I think about these things. How do they test? Is it like a thing they've been testing over time where people have been
Yeah,
part
I
of
think
studies?
just following people, what they put in their bodies, and then what happens to them with diseases and, like lung cancer and things like that. They're able to link, oh, you smoked for this number of years, and alcohol, the way that our bodies interact, they're able to put together the pieces and say, yeah, this actually contributes to these specific types of cancer, the way that
Right.
it interacts with the different systems in our bodies.
Huh. Interesting. It's so funny because I know people that have gone through the program where they give up alcohol entirely, and what happens is they become smokers and addicted to coffee.
Yeah, I remember that when I went to some AA meetings over the years, it was like, oh, nobody's drinking, but they smoke cigarettes and drink coffee,
Copious.
so you
Trading
got
in.
to figure out what works in your body. I mean, I think people have a lot of anxiety, and so they're like, oh, okay, well, I'm not having the alcohol for that, but I'm for now, I'm going to have the cigarettes instead. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, so
Um,
another plug for Green Door Life because it's all about whole body balance,
mhm.
meditation, yoga, all the things, which is stuff that I did in addition to drinking and smoking back
Mhm.
in the day. But,
Yeah, I mean, we're all just trying to we all want to feel good. We want to make connections. We don't want to feel anxiety. We don't like the uncomfortable feelings, right? So it's like most of us are looking for ways to, I don't want to feel that. Give me the drink. And
right.
so it becomes it's definitely like a spiritual practice for me. And it's an exciting practice.
Mm.
When I chose to quit drinking, it was like, oh, I had a coach in the beginning and I was telling her, I quit drinking. And she's like, well, Devon, you're learning to live in your body in a new way. And I went, what in the heck? I'm like, whoa,
Huh. That's
live in
heavy.
my body in a new way. I'm like, she's totally right.
Yeah,
How do I live in this body in a way where every time I have an uncomfortable feeling, I'm not like reaching for a bottle of wine.
right.
And so it was like, oh, the evening times were always the hardest for me, just being a parent and sort of the second shift. And that's when the empty feelings would come up for me. And I just was like, wow, here are these feelings. Now what, and for the most part, if you sit with them, you sit with the craving,
Right.
it goes away. And then you're like, wow, okay, I survived. And
They're
then you're
nothing more
reprogramming your nervous system.
Yes.
You become resilient. You're like, oh, I can handle. It's like when you're working out, when you
Right.
want to give up, you want to drop the weight and you push through that moment. And what do you get? The biceps. It's worth it.
It's like my girlfriend, this is how she came to the decision to stop drinking. She got really sick.
Mm,
And so when you're sick, you don't drink. Well, I don't drink when I'm sick. Some people drink more when they're sick. I don't know.
yeah.
Evidently, because I don't know. I won't get into it. I know some people that's what they do to be able to stay in bed. But anyway, she said, I really liked waking up feeling clear. So I
Mhm,
just decided I would just stop drinking for a while and see how it goes. And now she's adopted it as a lifestyle. So, and I'm gonna be in Paducah facilitating a couple of classes.
mhm.
And I texted her a picture, and she says, "How is it?" And I said, "Well, I hadn't had it yet." Um, and I actually lied to you. This is my second bottle of this because I
Oh.
find it so good. But what I was telling her was, I'm still the gray area. If I wanna, if I have friends over or whatever, I'm gonna have my one drink, and then I'm gonna go to that if we continue to drink.
Mhm.
Or I'm gonna do just the opposite and have that and make the last, it's like, and it's been interesting. I don't notice anything really different with my body, so maybe there is something about it tasting the same or
Yeah.
whatever it is. I mean, my mother and I, here we were in St. Martin, and I was experimenting with mocktails. And there was one I really loved, strawberry puree with sparkling something and an alcohol-free bitters, and they
I
dropped
love bitters.
and an orange in it. And I was like, "Wow, this tastes like a real drink to me." Is you sure you didn't put booze in this?
Yeah.
You get like 2 or 3 of them by the pool and feel like an alcoholic. It's
Sounds really good. I remember when we were in Oahu last year for my 50th birthday, and my husband and I were ordering the virgin pina coladas, and my son was like, "Can I have a taste?" And we're like, "Sure." And we're letting him taste this virgin
I
drink, and
know
there's this
people
other
are like,
couple looking over like, "What in the hell they're having?" I almost had to say, "There's no alcohol in there." Like,
"That's so funny. That's so funny." Well, what's so cool is that this resort had a whole menu for alcohol-free
Mhm.
cocktails.
Yeah.
And they was still expensive, y'all, like $16 a piece. I'm like, "I'm getting cheated. That alcohol should make that drink a lot more expensive. Why
Right.
aren't they discount?" But,
Well, if
whatever.
they're using really fresh ingredients,
Yeah.
and I think
True.
I think I wish there were more places like that. I wish there were more restaurants that offered a dealcoholized bottle of wine, so that you're out to dinner, you can,
I
they
think
can
it's
pop the
gonna
bottle, pour for you, you get the taste to go with your food, and
I think it's
it's
gonna
usually just
become
sparkling water,
right, true, but I
which
think
I'm
it's
fine with,
gonna
but
or Shirley Temple, blah.
yeah,
I think
too much
it's
sugar.
gonna become more popular, and I did find and I'm gonna share it in the show notes, y'all. I did find a place that's all they sell, and your
Mhm.
first order if you go to their website and then you don't actually buy nothing, they'll send you an email for 20% off. So
Mm,
that's the trick.
yeah.
And, I'm gonna experiment and see what I can do with that because I'm intrigued now because
Yeah, I wish there was
party
a
if I can still party with my friends and let my body choose what it
you
would
can.
because my body really wants to be clean, and I misunderstood a lot of this stuff. So I want to thank you personally for enlightening me when we had the call with the Green Door Life, and for sharing all of your knowledge with my peeps. I might have to make you a repeat offender in the future because I feel like I could talk to you forever and all the things, but I don't want to drag it on beyond an hour because then we might have lost a couple of people. I hope not.
Oh.
Um, just joking. For those of you watching now or in the future. But I have to ask you because it is the
Mhm.
Choosing Happiness podcast. Aside from this huge decision to give up alcohol to find you're happy, what do you do just for you, that creates your happy?
First thing that comes to mind is I love going to the gym and lifting weights. It's one of the things
I know,
that
right?
I
That's
say
so
that
fun.
now, and then I'll be doing Bulgarian split squats going like, "Wait, I said I like this?"
Oh my goddess, girl. I got back from St. Martin on Wednesday and I was broken, man. I mean, we were supposed to have someone there with a wheelchair to take care of my mom. And on both flights, there was nobody. And there I was finally in Atlanta where I had to get on a tram and not just push her, but our carry-on luggage and then recheck the bag and then get her to the bag. And it's not like she can't walk, but if we're going to actually get to where we need to go, we need to have wheels. So by the time I got home, I was so beat. So there I was Thursday dying. And then Friday, the workout was killing me. And all weekend, I'm trying to catch up with all the stuff. So Monday, I'm dying again. I hate my body right now. Not really hate. I never say that. I I love you, body. But the whole thing was, I was just dying. And then all of a sudden, yesterday's workout, I freaking crushed it. And then I did my Metcon today with, and it's that thing where when you get strong, like Bulgarian split squats or whatever, we did a lot of them Wednesday. Were you on the Wednesday workout?
Mm-mm.
Girl, do the replay. I was killing it. I went up on my weights on everything.
All
And
right.
that's when I said, okay, body, you're a rock star. 1 week ago, you just wanted to give up. And we do love our workouts, even when they're hard, and we got to acknowledge that.
Yeah, and some days we're on fire with our energy, and other days it feels like we're just dragging ourselves through it, right?
I'm just pulling my body along for the ride. And that's how I bruise so easily. It's like when I'm not paying attention and I run into a wall. It happens sometimes. It do. And that's why I won't do Metcons. I'm so afraid to drop that weight on my head. Could not be pretty. But I love it. So you work at that's your time for you. I love it so much. And now you're part of the Green Door family. What are you doing for them?
So I am their board certified nurse coach. And what a nurse coach is there's somebody who's a registered nurse like me. So I have my clinical background and experience that I add to also being a health coach. So wellness coach, helping people with healthy lifestyle choices. And then I'm also their alcohol-free coach as well. So I help people who are ready to step into the alcohol-free life, who want to commit to either 30 days, 90 days is my preference because it takes about 3 months to really create new habits where you can really feel solid in your choices and feel the clarity and all the wonderful things that I've experienced. I'm just passionate about helping people go through that process. And I was going to say the gray area drinker too is someone who's been able to quit before. So most people in the gray area, they've done like a 30-day, but they kind of come back to the same, drinking patterns.
The sober October, except for October 1st is my birthday. So it's usually not October 1st, but like the second.
Yeah.
I've done that. I've done that almost every year. And then also the January, because, it was trending.
Right.
It'd be trendy.
Yeah.
And all the things. And I also understand that you will have a link so that everyone that would like to have a little freebie with you could actually have a little combo with you.
Yeah, I'll have the link if anybody would like to just hop on a call for 30 minutes and just ask questions and kind of talk about how the coaching works. I love connecting with people and just helping them feel really good in their bodies. And so I'm available.
I appreciate you so much. I'm so grateful that there are people like you in the world that can show people that they can choose their happy without alcohol and actually choose for themselves. So thank you so much for that. And I'm so grateful to share this information with all my listeners. And hey, you guys out there in podcast land, yes, I'm talking to you. If you found this information enlightening, hit the subscribe button so that you will always know when the podcast is dropping, right? And if you know someone that could possibly benefit from this conversation, maybe they're curious about an alcohol-free life, share it with them if you would. I am, just so you know, taking a little hiatus. This is the last podcast until probably the fall. I'm taking some time. I'm taking some me time for myself. And, but I've got a million of them out there. I had the Get Happy podcast first, now Choosing Happiness. So if you've not, if you're missing me that much, do a replay or, find some of those that maybe you didn't listen to. So yeah. Thanks again, Devon. Appreciate
Thank you for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Was a wonderful conversation. I delighted in it so much. And so you know what I'm going to say, y'all. Until next time, ciao, ciao for now. Thank you so much for choosing happiness. If you've enjoyed this podcast, please subscribe, share, and give us a like. And if you want more happy, subscribe to the Choosing Happiness membership where you can play directly with me, Rudrani Davy, the Happiness Lady. How does it get any better than that?